shit, how do I, a 30-something-year-old woman, not know what brings me joy anymore? And that was kind of the first indication that I had strayed pretty fucking far from the truth of who I was. Hey, I'm Hannah, your host of Too Much, Not Enough. After a life-threatening burnout in 2021, I released the brittle version of success that was slowly killing me and built a life that feels as good as it looks. This podcast is for ambitious, soul-led humans ready to stop shrinking and start living big, bold, fully aligned lives. So if you've ever felt like too much and not enough, join me and my guests as we take an unfiltered deep dive into why being the real you was never the problem, and how to create a life your nervous system actually likes. Let's get into it. Hello, wild ones. It's just you and me today, cutie. So settle in as we dive into authenticity. In today's episode, we are going to talk all about being yourself and creating life, work, art from there. Sounds simple, but it's not easy, as I like to say. This concept of just being yourself is cool, but what if you don't know who you are or how to create and cultivate authenticity? Or what if the message that you've received is that you're too much? How do you get comfortable with being more of that, because that's where the magic lies, when it feels like that's a bad thing? I'm going to be very honest with you here because that is my brand. I don't actually know how to be much other than honest. I am in the process of this, and I will probably be for the rest of my life. As with most things in life, it's about the journey and not the destination. But I will say over the last 5 or so years, I have very intentionally been focusing on this idea of coming back to the truth of who I am, of the real Hannah before she got layered in stories of being too much and not enough. And I do feel like I have some juicy insights I can share on the topic. And here's the thing. It's not about how it looks. It's not about getting it right or even being strategic. It's truly about reconnecting to the truth of who you are and relaxing into the magic that flows from there. Because it really is magic when you start showing up more authentically in your life. Because your truth is the most magnetic thing that you have. The more you lean into it, the easier the life that you want comes towards you. And I will say that from real life experience. I 100% back this. So about 5 or so years ago, I had a moment when I actually realized I did not know what brought me joy anymore. And that was kind of a scary concept because I was like, shit, how do I, a 30-something-year-old woman, not know what brings me joy anymore? And that was kind of the first indication that I had strayed pretty fucking far from the truth of who I was. I was in a relationship and I actually hadn't even noticed how much I had morphed into the version of me that made the relationship easier, which equated to basically doing most of what he wanted and not necessarily what truly fulfilled me. And I say that to say, it sneaks up on you. It's not necessarily that you have actively made the choice to be not yourself. In some cases, that is true. It's a conscious protective mechanism. But for a lot of us, it's an unconscious survival mechanism where we have just slowly taken in all of this conditioning from outside of us and become a version of us that is still us, but not that true core authentic version. And so what I would like to chat about today is how you get back to that authentic version so that you can then create authentically from there. So first things first, how can you begin creating from your core essence when you feel blocked or locked or resistant? And this is, as I just mentioned, very much where I was at. Firstly, I actually didn't even realize. And then once I realized, I was so disconnected that I didn't even like know how to find my way back to who I was. And it's been a process, I will be honest. Like, if you've come here for a 3-week transformation hack, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm here to give you. What I am here to give you, though, is what worked for me and what has been entirely worth the years that it has taken to come back to this like joyful and honest version of me. So, to kick things off, how do you begin creating from your core truthful essence when you feel locked or blocked or resistant? Well, in my experience, the first step is to figure out who you actually are. And you do that by breaking it down into smaller, accessible paths back to the truth of who you are. So, first things first, just turning down the external noise, cutting out all of that constant noise that's coming from outside of us, from social media, perhaps, from movies, from your mom, from your best friend, of telling you like what you should be doing or what you think is best for you. And quite simply put, that means fuck other people's opinions. The minute that you think, I'd love to do this, but I can't because it's silly or it's a waste of time or that's not what Jess is doing to grow her business, so I shouldn't be doing that. That is the exact moment when you say to yourself, fuck other people's opinions, and you do the thing that you feel the pull towards. And one way to start like practicing this and cultivating this is through what my friend Bianca calls joy days. And Bianca is very amazing and smart, and hopefully we're going to have her on the podcast soon. But Bianca introduced this concept to me of joy days. And she said it's like a day or even just a morning that you set aside and you do not plan a single darn thing. You simply wake up and you follow your desires. So you wake up and you're like, I want a McDonald's breakfast sandwich. And you go and you get a McDonald's breakfast sandwich. And then you go, what do I want to do next? I want to go eat this in the park. So then you go and you sit and you eat it in the park. And then you go, it's a gorgeous day, but you know what? I really just want to lie in bed and read a book and turn off all the lights and be cozy. So you go and do that. You don't let that little gremlin in your head say, yeah, but it's gorgeous outside. You really shouldn't be lying in your bed reading a book. Like, that's not very productive. And summers are really short in Toronto. So like you need to be spending time outside, or actually you should be doing your to-do. No, you say, fuck all of that. And you just follow the threads of joy. As you start doing that, I feel like there's this sort of unraveling that happens where you're like, oh, weird. All of this time I've been resisting these things that I already intuitively knew that I wanted to do. But as I allow myself to do them, it's like I unlock another little door or another little window to the things that I really enjoy doing. Like, for example, my sister this summer has been going on this like reclamation of her inner child. And it's so beautiful to see. And it involves literally like all the things that she enjoyed as a kid that we like stopped doing as adults for some very odd reason that I actually don't understand. But she started like going on bike rides just for fun, not for exercise, not to train for anything. She just goes out on bike rides for fun. She gets freezies. She makes bracelets at bars with her friends. It's literally all about just like following that tug of the things she loved as a child. She loved to collect things when she was little, and she has just started collections of things again. There's no point to these collections. She's not going to one day sell them, or at least not to my knowledge. Coming back to who you are is doing the seemingly pointless shit that your adult brain says is pointless, but is not. It is actually, in fact, the whole point. So really, like, simply taking away that like big question of who am I actually, because that can feel overwhelming and can shut you down, and simply saying, what can I do today that would spark some joy in me? What did I love to do as a child that I can do today that has no productive outcome to it? And I think that that is the first step of coming back to who you are and just continuing to do things like that, seeing what sparks joy and then what comes from there. The next thing is believing who you are is good enough. Because here's the thing, people. I think a lot of us lose our connection to our core true essence, to that authentic version of ourselves, because we somewhere along the way picked up the idea that that is not good, that we are too much, not enough, and that we should be something else or someone else in order to achieve true success. That the ideas that we have are silly or stupid because we don't see other people out there, other successful people out there doing those things, and therefore they must be wrong. At which point we're going to shut that down and put on whatever mask it is with our friends at work to feel good enough and accepted. In conjunction with like doing things that bring you joy, it's realizing that who you are is good enough. And as you lean into that sort of what I see as a graduated system of self-acceptance, self-compassion, and then self-love, it becomes safer to be more of you, to show up as the authentic you. Because when you become comfortable with who you are, you're not as worried about other people being uncomfortable with who you are. Because that is going to happen. It doesn't mean that you like become your more authentic self and all of a sudden everything slots nicely into place. No, you're going to rub people the wrong way and you're going to maybe say the wrong thing, or there's going to be some people that can't handle it. And that's okay, because as you become more comfortable with that, you're going to be like, that sucks, but oh well, I really like me now and I'm not going to adjust to make so-and-so more comfortable. Now, the next step is really important and really uncomfortable. And that is to be fucking cringe. And this is like vitally important when you are starting out in becoming more of you, because it is going to feel cringy at first. And by that, I mean, for example, let's say that you want to show up more authentically as yourself on social media, or you want to be more of yourself, sort of remove that mask that you put on at work, or you want to be more affectionate and outwardly loving to your partner or your kids in public or even in private. At first, the steps towards that are going to feel uncomfortable. Showing up on social media and recording a story, talking as if you have 50,000 followers when you have 250 followers feels really, really cringy. And I'm sorry, there is no escaping that. You have to lean into the cringe. You have to show up and start making the videos, the art, the stories, the whatever it is that are not polished, that are not perfect, that are not going to be received by people being like, my goodness, this is the most beautiful work of art I've ever seen. No, you are going to put some stuff out there that feels really uncomfortable, but also that you're going to look back on and be like, I can't believe I did that. Like, ugh, that's so embarrassing. It is a rite of passage that everyone who has started showing up more authentically has gone through and had to go through in order to get to the place that they are now. Like, you look at people online, let's say, that have videos that you're like, oh my God, I wish I could just show up and say the shit that they say. Like, you know, Christina Kirkman is one for me right now. Like, I watch her and she just like has this like, I don't give a fuck attitude mixed with this really like vulnerable emotional side. And I think she just strikes this beautiful balance. And I'm like, I feel so attracted to that. And that is like an energy I want to bring more of into the world, because I think that's who I am at my core, but I'm not as great, I think, at doing that on social media. And Christina Kirkman had to go through posting cringy fucking videos online before I'm sure she got to striking this balance. And so an essential step is to be cringe. Because the more cringe you are, the more you realize, like, A, it's a way of like finding your place because you're going to test some stuff in whatever it is, your art, your business, your life, that maybe isn't quite you. But you won't know that until you do it, until you try it, until you put yourself out there. And then you can kind of course correct and then find that niche, that area, that corner that is you. So the more that you just say fuck it and post that video, the more that you just say fuck it and write that story and put it out into the world, or that fan fiction or whatever it is, the more that you are going to be like, yep, that feels good, or nope, not quite right. Let's adjust. Let's go forward. And more importantly, the cringier you are, the more likely that it is going to land for someone else, because they are going to see what you're doing in being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. And it is going to be that thing that they want and need more of. And then from there, that is going to snowball. So be fucking cringe. And then the kind of fourth step that I've realized of all of this, like, coming back to the truth of who I am and getting like really authentic so that I can create everything that I am creating in the world from that place, has been about getting comfortable. Because similar to kind of the being cringe piece, it's not going to feel comfortable at the beginning if you have been hiding a part or more than one part of yourself for years, decades even. It's going to feel uncomfortable at the beginning. But the more you do it, as is with anything, the more you repeat and refine the process of being more authentically you, the more comfortable it's going to get. And this has absolutely happened for me over time. Like, take this podcast, for example. The first episode I recorded a couple of times. I practiced, I rehearsed, I redid parts, I edited it really heavily because I was uncomfortable doing it. And the more I have come to this couch and spoken into this mic to you, the more comfortable I've gotten with it. And the more honest and authentic I've been, the more feedback I've received. I have received more feedback about this podcast than anything else I have ever done in my 7 years of being an entrepreneur so far. I still get messages every single week from people saying, thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for sharing. It was not like this easy thing where I was just like, oh, I'll just show up to the podcast and I'll start, sharing my life all over the internet. That felt deeply uncomfortable. I had to work through a lot of feelings and emotions and a big vulnerability hangover. But the more I did it, the more positive feedback I got, the more feedback I got reinforcing why I decided to do this in the first place, to be authentic and be vulnerable, the more comfortable it got. And that's the same thing for me too with showing up on social media. I have known for years that I needed to show up on social media more. I have known for years that I need to have a more consistent presence, and I want to create videos and create my form of art and put it out there in the world, the art that helps me transmute and really understand and process the big emotions I feel about experiencing life. But I stopped myself for so long doing that, partly because I didn't know who I was and therefore I didn't know what I wanted to put out in the world, but also partly because I was uncomfortable with putting things out there, especially, the thing for me was constantly, well, I don't have enough followers to be acting as if I'm like some social media influencer or what have you. And that's a bunch of bullshit. You just got to start, because the more you do it, the more you repeat the action, the process, the more comfortable you get with it. And then this idea of putting your true self out there, whether it be online, at work, with your partner, with your friends, whatever version it is for you, it goes from being really scary and really uncomfortable to normal. The more you do it, the more normal it is and the easier it feels, until you are like, okay, well, now I got to level up to the next level and share more or be more vulnerable or pick a bigger stage to put myself out there on. And that's so exciting, because it's so cool to look back as I was sort of prepping this episode and thinking about the things that I went through to get to this point, it's so cool to look back and think about. 5 years ago, when I was living in this like shitty little cottage out in Pickering that I hated, in a life that I was desperately trying to love but didn't, I remember doing this exercise with a coach of mine at the time about who I wanted to be. And it was this like freer, realer version of myself. And I called her Birdie because we gave her a name, and like wrote down the ways that she would show up in the world. And at that point, it felt so far. That version, that Birdie person, just felt so distant from the like everyday life that I was living. But that Birdie person is me. I am now living that life that I wrote down that I wanted to be more like. And that took time for sure. And it took a lot of commitment and consistency. But it was like 1,000,000,000,000% worth it, because the version of me that I now show up as, not only is it, I think, and I hope, and I also know because I get the messages, inspiring others to be more authentic in their life, but I also just like truly enjoy my company even more. I enjoy the interactions I have because I'm coming to them authentically. And then from there, the things that I'm creating and putting out into the world are landing better than anything I've ever done before, because they are coming from the truth of who I am. And that has a magnetic frequency that then draws opportunities towards you, that draws the things that you want and also the things you don't even know yet that you want towards you. When I go out into spaces and events and network with people and just share the real, honest shit that's on my mind, it is creating opportunities for me. And so previously, when I was showing up in a bit of a guarded way, or I was creating videos online, for example, that I thought would go viral, or doing things that were kind of a like copycat of something someone else was doing, or that I was structuring my business in the way that I thought I should in order to be successful, none of those videos went viral. The business was not attracting clients. In fact, the clients I was getting were not staying with me because I was building a business based on someone else's version of success. And the more and more and more that I have come home to who I really am, messy, wild, blunt, uncomfortable, funny, fun, joyful, life-loving, emotional, intense, all of those things, the more I have embraced those parts of me and shown up to life with them in like my front pocket, the more life has unfolded in my favor. This involves a lot of trust. I completely understand that. It has been a big exercise of trust. It doesn't happen right away. It's not magically you have an honest conversation and then all of a sudden everything comes flowing towards you. It is, like I said, a consistent and committed practice. But there's just like too many facets of life that become magical when you become more authentic and create from that place rather than trying to template other people's lives, that like it doesn't make sense not to. Like I can't sit here and say like, you know, it's worked really well for me, but if you don't want to do it, no worries. Like I actually can't, because from what I've seen, you'd be super silly to not become more authentically you and then build your business, build your life, build your relationship, build your parenting style, build your art from there. Because as someone who's done it both ways, who's built a business from absolutely not being myself and pushing against my natural nature, and is now in the midst of building a business that is at times scarily authentically me, like it doesn't make sense in the logical part of my brain. This version is so much better. It's so much more sustainable. It's so much more exciting. The expansive possibilities before me are like nothing I've ever experienced before. And I like want to do it for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And every time that I veer back into that old lane, that old version of creation, when I'm like chained to my to-do list and pushing and forcing and not showing up as me and stating my needs and my wants, even when it's to myself, I take a deep breath and I course correct, because I don't want to wake up in 5 years and realize that I've built a business, that I've created a life from a place that is not so true to my core and my soul and what I'm here to do. I would rather compromise or sacrifice certain goals I have of success in this life in order to like not find myself in that place in 5, 10 years of a brittle, unsustainable version of success. So I guess that's all to say, like, it requires a certain sense of commitment. It requires a certain sense of being able to exist in the realms of discomfort and a consistency of showing up and course correcting when you show up and realize, oh, that was an old version of me that showed up there and I didn't love how that felt, but I'm aware of that and next time I'm going to try it differently. But it's all so fucking worth it. Like, I cannot express how worth it is to figure out who you are, what you truly want at your core, and then use that as your foundation to create anything and everything that you want to put out there into the world. Whether that is actual art, or that is a service, a product, a business, or just creating connection with other people. When I say creating from your authentic frequency here, I'm not talking about necessarily just creating like a product, a thing, a piece of art. I'm talking about creating an experience of your life that feels so deeply you that even when it makes no sense to others and sometimes to yourself, you still know that it is exactly the path that you are meant to be on and it is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. To recap, the sort of 4 main things that I did to go from that lost girl 5 years ago who didn't even know what brought her joy anymore to feeling so centered and grounded in who I am and really liking all the aspects of what that means, even when it's messy or I'm mean or I say the wrong thing. I started out by just figuring out who I was, saying fuck other people's opinions, fuck people pleasing, turning down the external noise, and leaning into joy days, following my desires, even when my brain said that makes no sense. Spending the morning doing breath work and then going to sauna and cold plunge makes no sense when you're trying to build a business. What a waste of time. I said, no brain, thank you. I know that you're trying to protect me, but I am in fact going to go do that because that actually brings me closer to who I want to be. Number 2, believe who you are is good enough. Start small with self-acceptance and then graduate to self-compassion and then graduate to self-love. Number 3, be fucking cringe. There's no escaping being cringe when you start showing up in your life in a really authentic way. Because it might not even be cringe to other people, but it's gonna feel cringe to you. So make that fucking video and post it. Make the video that in 10 years you're going to look back on and go, I cannot believe I put that out on the internet. You make that video and you go press post. Do it. Put it out into the universe. Make that piece of art. Write that story. Write that romance fan fiction that you've been desperate to write. Like, put it out into the world. Be cringe. And the 4th thing is just getting comfortable. Repeat and refine, because you will get to a point where you look back and go, holy shit, I did it. Not only did I get to a more truthful version of who I am, but I am now using that version of me to make the decisions and create the things in life that I want to create. And that feels so fucking good that I actually don't even care how it looks anymore. So thanks for coming along on the journey with me today to learn a little bit more about creating from our authentic frequency. Because here's the thing, and I need you to listen very closely to this. Whatever it is that you have to offer into this world, whatever it is that is a representation of the true essence of who you are, is absolutely needed. We need more of you, more of the real, true you. And the longer you delay that, the longer you delay getting that out into the world, the more of a disservice you are doing, not just to yourself, but to us too. We want more of the real you. We want more of the things that you are going to create from the place of being the real you. So stop sleeping on it and start giving us more of you, please. On that note, please, if you like this episode and you think someone else in your life would benefit from it, give it a share. Follow, rate, leave a comment. I love, love, love reading your comments. If you want to connect, follow along on Instagram at Too Much Not Enough Podcast. Drop into the DMs there. Let me know how this landed and what that thing is that you really want to put out into the world, because I will cheer you on until you put it out there. Until next time, wild ones.